The man stood quietly at the edge of the long gravel driveway, dust clinging to his worn shoes as he stared at the house ahead of him. It was a house he knew better than any other, a house he had built brick by brick from nothing but ambition and exhaustion. Tall white columns framed the entrance, marble steps reflected the afternoon sun, and the heavy front door carried decades of triumph behind it. Yet as he stood there now, the house felt unfamiliar. For the first time in his life, Richard Hale did not feel like the owner of what he had created. He felt like a stranger. The bag on his shoulder held very little. Some clothes, a toothbrush, a few crumpled bills, but its weight pressed heavily against his back. His hair was overgrown, his jacket torn, his face lined with fatigue that had nothing to do with age. Anyone passing by would have assumed he was a man who had lost everything. What they could not know was that he was a self-made millionaire, the founder of a company that had reshaped cities and built fortunes. Today, however, Richard had come home to uncover a truth money could no longer answer. Richard Hale's story did not begin with success. It began in a small Midwestern town where winters were cruel and opportunities even crueler. He grew up in a narrow house with thin walls and constant worry. After his father died when Richard was only 12, survival became a daily calculation. He watched his mother count coins late into the night, deciding whether the family could afford bread or milk. Those moments carved something deep inside him. He learned early that life did not offer guarantees, and no one was coming to rescue them as a teenager. Richard worked every job he could find. He skipped meals so his younger siblings could eat and studied by candlelight when electricity was cut off. Every night before sleeping, he made himself the same promise. One day, his family would never worry about money again. That promise followed him into adulthood and became the fuel that drove him beyond exhaustion, beyond fear, and beyond comfort. Years later, that poor boy grew into a man whose name carried power. Richard started his construction business with a single used truck and borrowed tools. He failed more times than he succeeded, but he refused to quit. Slowly, painfully, his company grew. By his 40s, Hale Construction was a national force. Skyscrapers, bridges, and commercial centers bore his influence. Business magazines praised him as a visionary. Investors sought his approval. His success was undeniable at home. Comfort surrounded his family. His wife enjoyed a life free from worry. His children attended elite schools and spoke confidently about their futures. Vacations were luxurious, the fridge always full, the house always warm. Yet something essential had quietly slipped away. Family dinners became rare, replaced by meetings and schedules. Conversations grew shallow. His children talked more about brands than values, and his wife spoke more about appearances than connection. Richard began to notice that people listened to him not because of who he was, but because of what he owned. One evening, after returning from a charity gala filled with applause and hollow praise, Richard sat alone in his car. The noise of admiration echoed in his mind, but it felt empty. A painful question surfaced, one he could not push away. If everything he built vanished tomorrow, would love remain? The question haunted him in silence, at dinner tables, in boardrooms, and during sleepless nights. Was he loved or merely needed? Unable to live with the uncertainty, Richard made a decision that surprised even himself. He met privately with his lawyer and handed over temporary control of his company for 1 week. He withdrew a small amount of cash, left behind his phone, watch, and credit cards, and walked away from his life of privilege. He let his appearance change, wore old clothes, and returned home not as a billionaire, but as a man who had lost everything. As Richard approached the house, laughter floated through the air. His extended family was gathered outside, dressed well and relaxed, enjoying the afternoon. Glasses clinked, and smiles were easy. When Richard stepped closer, the sound of gravel under his feet drew attention. The laughter stopped abruptly. Confusion spread across faces as they recognized him. His brother squinted, his sister frowned, and his son stared without recognition at first. Then someone whispered his name, and silence fell. "What happened to you?" his wife asked, her smile disappearing. Richard swallowed hard and spoke quietly. He told them he had lost the company, that bad investments and lawsuits had destroyed everything. The words hung heavily in the air. His brother scoffed, accusing him of joking. His sister crossed her arms and demanded to know what he expected now. Richard simply said he needed a place to stay and needed his family. The reaction cut deeper than any business failure. His brother stepped back, irritated. His son avoided his eyes and suggested a hotel. His wife hesitated but said nothing. Then his sister spoke the words that shattered him completely. She said they had worked hard for their life and could not risk it because of his mistakes. No one hugged him. No one asked if he was okay. No one offered to face the future together. Feeling invisible, Richard turned to leave. As he reached the gate, a gentle voice stopped him. It was his youngest daughter, Emily. She stepped forward, wearing a simple dress, her eyes filled not with judgment but concern. She asked him to come inside. When her mother hesitated, Emily spoke firmly. She said she did not care if he was broke. He was her father. She took the bag from his hand, and in that moment, Richard nearly collapsed under the weight of her kindness. Inside the house, the atmosphere was tense. Dinner was quiet and uncomfortable. Most people avoided Richard, speaking only when necessary. Emily stayed beside him, served him food first, asked how he felt, and listened without interrupting. Later that night, she knocked softly on his door and told him he could stay as long as he needed. She admitted she did not have much, but she had love. Richard could not speak. He simply nodded, overwhelmed. The next morning, Richard woke early and went outside. He began cleaning the yard, pulling weeds and sweeping leaves. His hands remembered what survival felt like. His brother watched from the window, shaking his head and mocking him. Emily came out with a glass of water and told him he did not need to work. Richard replied that he wanted to, that it felt honest. As days passed, Richard saw his family clearly for the first time. Some avoided him entirely. Some mocked him openly. Others spoke politely but coldly. Emily never left his side. She shared meals with him, defended him when others criticized him, and even offered to sell her car so he could start over. That offer broke something open inside him. No business loss had ever hurt this deeply, or healed him this completely. On the seventh day, Richard asked everyone to gather in the living room. Nervous faces surrounded him. He placed his watch on the table, then his phone, then a folder of documents. Calmly, he told them the company was not gone. This had all been a test. Anger erupted. His brother shouted. Accusations filled the room. Emily stood confused, hurt, Richard turned to her, tears in his eyes, and told her she had passed. He explained everything. Some family members were ashamed, others defensive, but Richard felt no anger. He had found the truth he was searching for. That day, Richard learned that real wealth had nothing to do with money. True riches were found in kindness, loyalty, and love that asks for nothing in return. When everything else disappeared, only one person stood by him, and that love was priceless. The room remained heavy with silence after Richard revealed the truth. No one spoke at first. His brother's anger slowly drained into disbelief, while his sister looked down at her hands, unable to meet his eyes. His wife stood frozen, torn between relief and shame, her face revealing emotions she had hidden for years. Emily remained still, confusion written across her face, as if the ground beneath her had suddenly shifted. Richard looked around the room, not with triumph, but with a quiet sadness. The test had never been about exposing flaws for revenge. It had been about understanding where love truly lived. He explained calmly how he had handed over control of the company, how every moment of the week had been real to him, and how the rejection had hurt far more than he ever imagined. He admitted that the loneliness of success had pushed him to this desperate experiment, because wealth had begun to feel like a wall separating him from genuine connection. His brother finally spoke, his voice lower now, stripped of its earlier aggression. He said he felt betrayed, manipulated, and embarrassed. Richard nodded, accepting the words without defense. He told him that anger was fair, but the truth was still necessary. Trust, he said, meant nothing if it existed only when life was easy. His sister wiped away tears and whispered that she had been afraid. Afraid of losing stability, afraid of going backward, afraid of becoming poor again. Richard realized then that fear, not cruelty, had guided many of their reactions. His wife stepped forward slowly. Her eyes filled with tears as she admitted that she had grown comfortable with security and appearances. She said she did not know how to love him without the protection of wealth surrounding them. The honesty stung, but Richard appreciated it more than empty apologies. For the first time in years, they were speaking truth instead of performing roles. Emily finally broke the silence. She asked softly why he felt the need to test them instead of trusting them. Richard walked toward her, his voice trembling as he explained that trust had slowly faded as love became conditional. He told her that she had reminded him of who he once was, before money complicated everything. Emily listened quietly, tears slipping down her face, and hugged him without hesitation. That embrace carried more meaning than any contract he had ever signed in the days that followed. The atmosphere in the house changed. Conversations became slower, deeper. Some family members tried to justify their actions. Others apologized sincerely. Richard did not demand forgiveness or offer punishment. Instead, he set boundaries. He explained that wealth would no longer define relationships within the family. Any future support, he said, would be rooted in respect, honesty, and responsibility, not entitlement. Richard made a decision that surprised everyone again. He restructured his estate plans, ensuring that money would never replace character. Emily would receive no special financial reward for her kindness, because love, he believed, should never be purchased. Instead, he invested in her dreams, encouraging her education and independence, while reminding her that her true strength was her compassion. To the rest of the family, he offered something far more challenging than money: the opportunity to rebuild trust slowly. His relationship with his wife entered a difficult but honest chapter. They began counseling, confronting years of emotional distance. For the first time, Richard stopped hiding behind work, and she stopped hiding behind comfort. Progress was slow and not guaranteed, but it was real. Richard accepted that love could not be forced, only chosen. Every day.s for Richard himself. Something within him had shifted permanently. He returned to his company with a different purpose. Profit mattered, but people mattered more. He began funding community programs not for publicity, but because he remembered hunger and fear too clearly to forget. He spent time mentoring young workers, listening to their stories instead of rushing past them. Emily often joined him on these visits. Watching her interact with people, Richard saw reflections of his younger self, humble, grounded, and human. He realized that his greatest legacy would not be the buildings he constructed, but the values he preserved. Years later, when people asked Richard what his greatest success was, they expected him to name a skyscraper or a financial milestone. Instead, he would smile softly and say it was the week he lost everything and discovered who truly loved him. Because sometimes, losing the illusion of security is the only way to find real connection. When money disappears and masks fall away, kindness stands alone. And in that quiet truth, Richard found a wealth that could never be taken from him.